Hello, everyone, and welcome to LM605 International Business. And I'm Dr. John Crispin, your instructor, and this is our first live session, the recording of which is going to be posted in the classroom. So if you're not able to join us live, thank you for joining us when you're able to see this via recording. So let's get started first. Let me share the screen here. And one more. There it is. There, now we have the video panel up. This is a screenshot or picture of the syllabus. I wanted to just take a little stroll through this for a minute to allow you to make sure that you know where to find it and you can review it, because this will be a very valuable document all the way through the course. The course description is important because this tells us in what direction we're going to direct our learning journey. This advanced course provides students with an understanding of the global economy and its impact on business within the United States. And this is important because the world economy right now and international trade is in a sort of a dynamic state. And many of the old norms and rules are being upended every day. So understanding that plus the direction that it can go is very important for the study of international business today. And topics include the impact of political systems on business, effects of culture on business style, and the role of international trade, management of multinational corporations, and the impact of trade restraints and liberalization, and the balancing of legal, political, and ethical issues in international business techniques is covered. Wow, what a mouthful. But by the end, you should be able to assess your own company's strengths, assess what is required in a given chosen financial market, and use that to also begin to create strategies on how to set up an operation or you're trading your business there. So there are many pieces to this puzzle, and we're going to look at just about every one of them. What you are to learn is important as well. First of all, to broaden your understanding of the concepts of international business. This is essentially understanding the roadmap. Better understand the nature of international business from the perspective of multinational corporations. They're the ones that drive a lot of international business because of their size and expertise. Have deeper knowledge of the theories of trade and economic development in international business. This will help you become deliberate in your strategy implementation and creation. Have knowledge and understanding of the concepts of international monetary system, the balance of payments, foreign exchange markets, supranational organizations, international institutions, and national economies. That too has been altered and upended, and we're seeing a lot of dynamism in that area. With first the implementation of tariffs in this country and sanctions and so forth. So lots going on here, and to understand that is to be able to create better strategies. Better understand and have knowledge of international law, sociocultural factors in international business and foreign investment. Be aware of ethical environmental issues in international business. That has recently changed in the United States. In the United States, there was a law that no matter where you conducted business, you had to conduct it under international or United States law and ethics norms. Otherwise, you would be fined. So it's the old story of when in Rome, do as the Romans do. That was not the case with our previous policy. Now the new administrative regime has sort of pushed that aside and said, do what you need to do in international business. So again, a state of dynamism, and understanding it is half the battle. Understand the most recent trends and future concerns in international business. With the trending of technology that washes across all industry, artificial intelligence is and will continue to have a dramatic effect on international business. So these are the 7 big areas that we're going to be studying. And our textbook is International Business, 3rd edition by Morris Oldroyd. And you'll be able to get that book again through the bookstore or Amazon or wherever you buy your textbooks. The course grading rubric means that participation is 15% of your grade, which means you need to participate each week. Discussions are significant. Along with assignments, they're worth together 50% of your grade. The midterm exam is 15%, again, significant, and the final exam presentation, 20%. So these weighted percentages are very important in terms of the outcome of your final grade. This states the various policies. But here's what I wanted to get to. There are 20 points, 20 different items that we're going to be studying. Each of these items are a part of the larger whole of what we call international business. So don't think of these parts as an individual silo unto itself. It is a connecting part, an integral connecting part of the total international business model. And if you think of it that way as such, you'll find that it's probably going to be easier to assimilate. So we start off with globalization, just understanding it's a big world out there of 195 countries or so. And every one of those countries has an opportunity waiting for someone or some multinational. Using international business analytical tools, we're going to learn about the political systems because that's very important in how one does business in a country. The legal environment, economic systems, and currency and foreign exchange are all very integral part of the international business model. Currency and foreign exchange, trade theories, culture, sustainability, poverty. The poverty levels in the world have lowered significantly in the last 20 years, but we may start to see them on the uptick, particularly if there are wars, major wars throughout the world. Technological change and infrastructure, global innovation and intellectual property. These are very important because they, again, affect everything, right down to the functional worker, an individual customer. Country selection and entry modes. Not all countries are as equally attractive to your firm. So which ones are, and how should you go after them and compete in those countries? International strategy, international organizational structures, global leadership, global marketing, and global operations and supply chain management. This is important because if you take a look at the iPhone in China, its supply chain of the camera alone consists of 1,000 suppliers. So you can just imagine how much a whole iPhone takes in terms of a satisfying supply chain requirement. Global human resource management. One of the benefits of operating in a foreign market is that you can get the individual local people to help you understand what's going on and what the population needs so that you can increase your effectiveness. So that's very important in terms of human resource management. And finally, global finance and accounting. And that really means if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. So if you have a plan, it needs to be measured. And anything of importance needs to be measured. So that's the syllabus. And again, it's available to download. So I would recommend that you have it at hand. So next, let's go to see what international business is all about in terms of sort of an overview. And for a definition, international business is the study of transactions taking place across national borders for the purpose of satisfying the needs of individuals and organizations. And these economic transactions consist of trade, as in the case of exporting and importing, and foreign direct investment, as in the case of companies funding operations in other countries. So over half of all the world trade and approximately 80% of all foreign direct investment is made by the 500 largest firms in the world. And these companies, called multinational enterprises, or MNEs, are firms that are headquartered in one country and have operations in one or more other countries. So who are these firms? Well, some of them you know by name because you have used their products or seen their advertising in order of annual revenue. Here it is, a list of those 6 MNEs that each grossed more than 125 billion in 2009. Obviously, this list is out of date, but it gives you an example of the types of firms that are multinational. For instance, in 2009, Walmart, the largest retailer in the world, was topped the list. It was not an oil or energy company or technology company. And then we move down to the more expected players, which are the energy companies, oil companies, Royal Dutch Shell, Exxon, and British Petroleum. And then we move into the automotive and finally into the banking. So these are the broad categories of the types of M&Es that are currently operating or were operating at that time. This list today would be much different, but the groupings would be probably similar. And so that's why this is still relevant. Interdependence of locations is an especially complex issue and is associated with the growth of the international firm. At the most basic level, the growth of trade has reduced distances, and the concurrent growth of M&Es has accentuated this trend. So the borders of countries and cities and regions have been increasingly blurred because the economic actors located within that location also have operations in multiple other locations. At the country level, it affects the identity of the nation state. So how does the threat of raising U.S. tariffs affect the interdependence of locations? Well, in the words of the great economist, it depends. It depends on where you're trading and doing business, and is that country affected by a tariff, whereas other countries you're doing business is not. There's a tendency to mistake internationalization for globalization, and the key to differentiating the two types is the issue of interdependence. Interdependence is the essence of globalization, and as usual, it is a continuum with firms, individuals, and other countries demonstrating different degrees of interdependence. Understanding globalization requires us to appreciate the increasing degrees of interdependence between economic units, whether firms, individuals, or countries. The term interdependence has a very specific meaning. It refers to a mutual reliance between groups of actors and the degree to which the mutual reliance can vary considerably. Members of a soccer team are typically deeply interconnected with a high degree of interdependence. So in mapping globalization, it is not straightforward to map globalization. Globalization has to do with the intertwining of a number of social, economic, and political factors. And the problem is that It is all linked to human behavior and action. And this is important. Understanding human behavior is unfortunately not a science, but a social science. So there is a difference. And those associated with the socio-political developments, political decisions or indecisions, shape the success or failure of firms and the competitiveness of countries. Liberalization and the preferred policy orientation of a country play a significant role in shaping economic policy. So these associated with technology and innovation, the ability of firms to be successful depends on ultimately on the ability to generate new ideas through innovation. Obviously, firms shape the competitiveness of the location they are in, and this is going to be discussed further in the term. But one of the company's main reasons for being is to create innovation on behalf of their customers, to reach more customers and to go deeper in the customers they do have. Those associated with technology and innovation, meaning the ability of firms to be successful, depends ultimately on their ability to generate new ideas through innovation, and obviously firms shape competitiveness of the location they are in. And again, I say that again because of its importance. There are an assortment of push and pull factors, as this chart shows, as well as which affect the capacity of a firm to internationalize. At the upstream end of the firm's activities, it must balance push factors arising from rising prices and of inputs that encourage it to go abroad to seek cheaper inputs. This happened in this country when all or most of the uh, clothing industry, the mills making cloth, basically up sticks and went abroad to East Asia. And now there are very few, if any, mills, fabric mills, left in the United States, particularly any of any size. There are an assortment of push and pull factors as well, which affect the capacity of a firm to internationalize. On the upstream end of the firm's activities, it must be a balance. Push factors arising from rising prices of inputs that encourage it to go abroad to seek cheaper inputs. And at the same time, these activities are pulled abroad because there are scale economies from relocating these activities in foreign locations. And likewise, at the downstream end, closer to the final market and the consumer, there may be a variety of push and pull factors. The home market may be mature, and firms need to seek new opportunities for growth in a new, faster growing countries. That would be a push factor. On the other hand, there may be users to exports that encourage the firm to relocate production overseas, acting as a pull factor, again, as in the fabric markets. So some key points. There's little doubt that we live in a world defined by globalization. Globalization, however, remains a vague concept used by different people in different ways. And our text defines economic globalization as the growing interdependence of locations and economic factors across countries and regions. International business is the study of transactions taking place across national borders for the purpose of satisfying needs of individuals and organizations. And two of the most common types of international business activity are export-import and foreign direct investment, or FDI. In recent years, both have been on the rise, and much of this is a result of large multinational enterprises, or MNEs. Small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, often function as the backbone of large MNEs, efficiently providing goods and services that are integrated into the latter's production processes. SMEs also compete with MNEs in niche products, niche markets. SMEs are often more flexible than MNEs, but struggle to match the MNEs in terms of resources. Institutions are defined as sets of common habits, routines, established practices, rules, or laws that regulate the interaction between individuals and groups. Understanding institutions, both formal and informal, is important for both firms and employees so they can adjust their behaviors accordingly. These key points continued. Trade regulations has become an important issue in international business. Today, the World Trade Organization, or WTO, is the major supranational body responsible for governing the international trading system. There are two ways to measure FDI: FDI stock and FDI flow. Inward FDI flow is money coming into a country during the reporting year from foreign-owned MNEs, which have their subsidiaries in the recipient country. Outward FDI flows are the monies going out from firms that have registered in the home country to another country through their subsidiaries abroad. FDI flow is different from FDI stock. The latter looks at the accumulation of FDI over time, whereas FDI flow only looks at FDI inflow or outflow in one reporting year. FDI stock is a more reliable indicator of FDI in countries. Next, international production and trade are increasingly organized with global value chains, GVCs, global value chains, of global production networks, GPNs, where the different stages of the production process are balanced across different countries. And due to globalized nature of some markets, it is advantageous for firms to develop products in different countries to benefit from the home country's location advantages. This is important for dealing with local cultures and understanding them that are different than one's own. So here's a fellow by the name of Hofstede, is one who developed a system in order to be deliberate in understanding and adopting the necessary behaviors to be most effective in local countries. So the description is to measure the extent to which less powerful members of a society accept and expect unequal power distribution, high PDI or power distribution, high PDI cultures, for instance, India, Russia, accept hierarchical structures, while low PDI cultures, for instance, Denmark, New Zealand, favor equality and collaboration. The managerial implications are, in high PDI cultures, managers may need to adapt authoritative decision-making style as employees expect clear directives. In low PDI cultures, participative or democratic approaches involving team input and are more effective. So the team here is more effective than the individual. Application: well, managers can assess the PDI of their team's culture to tailor their leadership style. And for example, in a high PDI setting, they might centralize decisions to align with expectations, while in low PDI environments, they may foster an open discussion to boost engagement. So another form is individualism versus collectivism, or IDV. This reflects whether a society prioritizes individual goals individualism such as the United States and Australia, or group harmony and collective goals, collectivism such as China, South Korea. Managerial implication is individualistic. Cultures, managers can motivate employees with personal rewards and recognition. In collectivist cultures, team-based incentives and group cohesion are more effective. An application would be managers can design reward systems based on this dimension. For instance, in a collectivist culture, they might emphasize team bonuses, while an individualistic culture, they could highlight personal career growth opportunities. Continued, there's the term of masculinity versus femininity, or MAS. The description is a little bit different than what we're used to, or it's operationalized in that it indicates whether a society values competitive, achievement-oriented traits, masculinity, for instance, Japan and Germany, or cooperative, nurturing traits, femininity, such as Sweden and the Netherlands. An application would be managers can align organizational goals with cultural values. And for example, in a masculine culture, they might set aggressive sales targets, which in a feminine culture, they would focus on creating supportive work environments. Uncertainty Avoidance Index, or UAI, is described as measures a society's tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty. High UAI cultures, for instance, Greece and Portugal, prefer structure and rules, while low UAI cultures, for instance, Singapore and the United Kingdom, are more comfortable with risk and change. The managerial implications would be, in high UAI cultures, managers should provide clear guidelines and minimize risks in decision making. And in low UAI cultures, they can encourage innovation and flexibility. An application would be managers can adjust their approach to change management. For instance, in high UAI settings, they might implement detailed plans and communicate extensively to reduce anxiety, while in low UAI settings, they can promote experimentation. And to continue, long-term versus short-term orientation, or LTO. Its description reflects a society's focus on long-term plan and perseverance, long-term, for instance, China, South Korea, versus immediate results and traditional short-term, for instance, USA and Nigeria. Managerial implications would be, in long-term cultures, managers prioritize sustainable strategies and investments, and in short-term oriented cultures, quick wins and immediate outcomes are valued. An application would be managers can align strategic planning with cultural orientation. For example, in a long-term oriented culture, they might focus on building enduring customer relationships, while in a short-term culture, they could emphasize quarterly performance metrics. Indulgence versus restraint, or IVR. The description is measures whether a society allows free expression of desires and enjoyment. Indulgence, for instance, Mexico and Australia, or suppress gratification for strict social norms. Restraint would be, for instance, Russia and China. Managerial implications are indulgent cultures. Managers can foster creative and flexible work environments. And in restrained cultures, adherence to rules and discipline is more effective. An application would be managers can tailor workplace policies. For example, in individual cultures, in indulgent cultures, they might encourage social events or flexible schedules, while in restrained cultures, they could emphasize professionalism and structure. Next is, how can managers effectively use Hofstede's cultural dimensions? Well, in terms of cultural assessment, managers should use Hofstede's framework to analyze the cultural profiles of their teams, organizations, or markets. Tools like Hofstede's country comparison database, which is available online, provide scores for each dimension, enabling managers to understand cultural tendencies. And for example, a manager leading a team in Japan, which has high PDI and high MAS, would adopt structured hierarchical approach compared to a team in Sweden, which has low PDI, low MAS. And taking a step into tailored decision-making by aligning decisions with cultural dimensions, managers can improve team buy-in and effectiveness. And for instance, when launching a project in a high UAI culture, managers should provide detailed plans and risk integration strategies to gain trust. In contrast, in a low UAI culture, they can propose innovative ideas that have less rigid frameworks. The cross-cultural team management. In multinational teams, managers can use the framework to bridge cultural gaps. For example, team combining members from individualistic, for instance, USA, and collectivist versus China cultures requires balancing individual recognition with team cohesion. And managers might assign individual tasks, but celebrate group achievement to satisfy both preferences. Next would be conflict resolution. Cultural misunderstandings often lead to workplace conflicts. By understanding dimensions like PDI and IDV, managers can mediate effectively. So for example, or instance, in a high PDI culture, employees may hesitate to change a manager's decision, so managers should proactively seek feedback to avoid miscommunication. Training and development. Managers can use Hofstede's insights to design culturally sensitive training programs. For example, in collectivist cultures, team-based training activities are more effective, while in individualistic cultures, self-paced modules may be preferred. And finally, global strategy formulation. For organizations operating internationally, Hofstede's framework helps tailor strategies to local markets. And for instance, marketing campaigns in masculine cultures might emphasize achievement and status, while those in feminine cultures could focus on community and care. So some practical tips for implementation would be leverage data. Use Hofstede's country comparison tool available at sites like hofstedeinsights.com to assess specific cultural scores for countries or regions. Engage with teams, conduct surveys or discussions to understand employees' cultural preferences, especially in diverse systems where national culture may not fully apply. Adopt flexibility, recognize that individuals may deviate from cultural norms, so combine Hofstede's insight with direct feedback. And monitor and adjust, continuously assess the effectiveness of culturally informed decisions and refine approaches based on outcomes. Some limitations to consider. Well, generalization risk. Hofstede's dimensions are based on national average and may not apply to every individual or subculture. Dynamic cultures evolve, so managers should complement Hofstede's data with current observations or real-time insights, for instance, from web searchers or employee feedback. Context matters. Organizational culture or industry norms may override national cultural tendencies in some cases. By understanding and applying Hofstede's cultural dimensions, managers can make informed, culturally sensitive decisions that enhance team performance, reduce conflicts, and improve global business outcomes. So we're going to stop here. And again, I want to reemphasize the value of understanding the Hofstede approach in that if you go into a country that has a culture different than your own, or you may not know if it does or not, the way to be sure and pragmatic is to do these assessments and then tailor your management and leadership style accordingly to get the most productive behavior from your local employees. Now, this can be in terms of South Korea and Samsung going into Vietnam. This can be a very big effort. Taiwan building big chip fabrication plants in the United States and Arizona. The Taiwanese culture and the American culture are two different, totally different cultures. Having Hofstede's information of a better understanding of how local employees would operate in Arizona and how that differs from the leadership in Taiwan is very important, and an ability to adjust behavior accordingly through understanding and approaching these local workforces, functional workers, in a way they understand and can accept is a way to build trust and efficiency and productivity in your local business in a country far away and culturally far away from yours. So with that, we're going to ring off here. And I want to thank you all for watching this presentation. If you have any questions, you know you can reach out to me via email, text, or whatever, or you can call me. My number is listed. And I look forward to a great and productive session term here in which we're going to really thoroughly study international business and what it really means to be culturally aware and profitable and productive in the world economy today. Anyway, that's it. And remember, I'll see you in class. All right, everybody, stay safe.